Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is finding support at this previous area of resistance, while the Bitcoin dominance is breaking out higher. And on top of that, Bitcoin funding rates are now flipping into the negative, while Ethereum is forming a new pattern that we need to pay attention to. So I'll be talking about that later in the video. Definitely watch to the end. First of all, just giving you a quick update here on the daily Bitcoin chart, and right now, technically speaking, this bearish divergence is there on the chart, but we don't really have a lot of confirmation fully confirming the bearish divergence, because as we can see here in the daily Bitcoin RSI, technically we're still sitting in lower highs, but we have not really cemented this lower high in place in the RSI, because as of right now, the RSI is still hanging around these levels. We haven't really seen a strong turnaround to fully confirm this lower high in place. And so basically what this means for the bearish divergence is very little will be required to actually invalidate the bearish divergence, because basically if we just see a small pump to the upside in the price of Bitcoin from where we are right now, that can pull the RSI further to the upside into new higher highs. And obviously if we have higher highs in the price and higher highs in the RSI, there's no bearish divergence. So basically in order to further confirm this bearish divergence and become more confident in the bearish divergence here on the daily chart beginning to play out, we need to see a stronger turnaround here in the RSI actually confirm with daily candle closes in order to cement the lower high in place and to be more confident in the bearish divergence. And especially if you're looking at the daily Bitcoin MACD, as of right now, this is technically looking more bullish than bearish in terms of the momentum, because recently, just a few days ago, we did see a bullish crossover, which basically means we are currently looking more bullish than bearish in terms of the trend and momentum on the daily chart. But with that being said, the momentum at the moment is not as high compared to some of these previous moves. And so basically, I would not necessarily expect a massive high momentum movement, because once again, as of right now, we're simply lacking that extreme momentum. And just staying on the daily Bitcoin chart, looking at these important levels of resistance and support. First of all, we have just recently broken out above this significant area of resistance, sitting in between around 27.9k to 28.2k based on the volume profile indicator and also previous resistance. And in fact, what we have now seen over the last one day is actually a bounce from that area, which was previous resistance and is now acting as new support, which is technically bullish price structure. Anytime where we break out above resistance and flip that into new support, that is of course price structure heading in the bullish direction. And so if the price of Bitcoin can simply remain above this area that I just mentioned, then obviously that is bullish in terms of the trend, and we could perhaps play out a bit of a consolidation of some sort to cool off after that extreme bullish price action a few days ago. And for as long as we remain above this area just here, then it's likely we could head up towards the next important area of resistance within perhaps a couple of weeks from now. And this next area of resistance further to the upside is sitting in between around 29.1k to 29.4k. And that area of resistance is also based on the volume profile indicator and previous support in the price of Bitcoin. But in a more bullish scenario, if we actually see a breakout back above 29.4k, then in that case, we have the next area of resistance based on the volume profile indicator and also previous resistance just here, sitting at around 30.2k to 30.4k. And as for support, once again, right now, the price of Bitcoin is finding support in this previous area of resistance, currently sitting in between around 27.9k to 28.2k. And for the Bitcoin bears out there, we would need to see a confirmed break back below 27.9k in order to flip more bearish again, at least in the shorter term. And if you're zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 6-hour Bitcoin chart, right now, as I've recorded this video, over the last couple of days, the price of Bitcoin has been playing out a bit of a short-term cool-off in the form of a sideways consolidation as expected, because once again, ever since we saw that pump to the upside a few days ago now, over the last couple of days, I've been talking about how the price of Bitcoin is likely going to play out a bit of a short-term cool-off in the form of either choppy sideways price action, if not a slight pullback in the short term, as the most likely outcomes. And this is simply due to the fact that the 6-hour Bitcoin RSI just a few days ago entered into overbought territories, meaning the price went too far to the upside too quickly, and we need some time to cool off in the short term to help reset the RSI. And once again, this is now currently happening as I'm recording this video, and it's possible it could continue to happen over the the next 1 to 2 days or so in order to continue to reset the RSI, which can actually give us more room to the upside later on. And as for short-term support and resistance, we still have this level of resistance where we recently rejected from, sitting at around 28.7k approximately. And if we see a confirmed breakout back above 28.7k, then once again we need to pay attention to these next areas of resistance that I mentioned earlier on the daily time frame. And as for short-term support, besides this area of support here on the daily chart, looking at these Fibonacci levels of support, we have the 38.2% Fibonacci level of support here on the 6-hour time frame, sitting at around 27.9k to 28k. But if we see a breakback below that level, then we have the 50% retracement level sitting at around 27.3k approximately, and the golden pocket acting as support at around 26.6k to 26.7k. And if you're taking a look at the Bitcoin funding rates right now, a lot of the funding rates across multiple exchanges are actually flipping back into the negative territory, which basically means there's currently a premium to short Bitcoin. And in case you're new to this channel, what that actually means is essentially there's a high demand right now for traders to short Bitcoin. So basically there's a lot of people out there wanting to sell or short Bitcoin that are bearish on the price of Bitcoin. And so this is actually one ingredient for a possible short squeeze, because basically when the funding rates are negative, that means the short positions have to pay that rate as a fee to the long positions. And so essentially there's an extra incentive right now to long Bitcoin because you're getting paid this fee on top of your profits to long Bitcoin. But if you want to short Bitcoin right now, like I said, there is a premium to short Bitcoin and this extra fee added on top of the short position. And once again, in case you're new to all of this, when you close a short position, that adds buying pressure to the price of Bitcoin. And when you close a long position, that adds selling pressure to the price of Bitcoin. And so essentially, if there's an incentive to long Bitcoin or to close short positions, that's basically an incentive to add more buying pressure in the form of opening long positions and also add more buying pressure in the form of closing short positions. So this is also a mechanism to pay attention to. While the funding rates are negative, once again, it could be a little bit easier for the price of Bitcoin to drift to the upside. And if you're looking at the Bitcoin dominance, this is exactly what we are seeing on the weekly time frame. Obviously, the trend right now in the Bitcoin dominance is very strong, at least for now. And so this essentially means Bitcoin is outperforming the majority of the altcoin market. So essentially, if you're just holding Bitcoin versus holding altcoins, it's likely that holding Bitcoin is going to do better for you than holding altcoins. Of course, that is not financial advice. That's just what the Bitcoin dominance means when it's going to the upside. But of course, there are always outliers in the altcoin market. I'm not talking about the entire altcoin market underperforming Bitcoin. I'm just talking about the altcoin market in general right now. While the Bitcoin dominance is trending to the upside, the majority of the altcoin market in general is underperforming against Bitcoin. But obviously, eventually at some point, there will be some sort of reversal in the Bitcoin dominance, and that is when we can see an altcoin season. Basically, when the Bitcoin dominance is pulling back to the downside, that is where the altcoins are performing very well. And so it's worth keeping an eye on a possible bearish divergence forming right now in the Bitcoin dominance on the weekly time frame. Obviously, we now have higher highs in the weekly candles here in the Bitcoin dominance, while also forming lower highs in the weekly RSI. But it is important to mention that as of right now, this potential bearish divergence is not yet confirmed. We still need to actually confirm the higher high in place in the weekly candle closes. And then after that, we would then need to see a confirmed rejection by at least 1 to 2 weekly candle closes after that in the RSI. So at the soonest, this bearish divergence could confirm perhaps in a couple of weeks from now, at the soonest, if it does end up confirming. Obviously, if the Bitcoin dominance continues further to the upside over the next few weeks, then it's possible the RSI can also continue further to the upside into higher highs. So for now, this is just something to pay attention to, but it is not yet confirmed. And now getting into the Ethereum part of this video, something else to pay attention to, which is not yet confirmed, is a giant falling wedge pattern here on the 3-day ETH to US dollar chart. Because obviously, as we can see, we have a descending line of resistance and also a descending line of support that are converging together into a falling wedge. And right now, this line of support is sitting at approximately 1.5k, more specifically around 1520, give or take. And this line of resistance is sitting at around 1.7k approximately. And so basically, in order to confirm the breakout and the technical price target for this pattern, we need to see a confirmed breakout back above around 1.7k, back above this line of resistance. And in that scenario, if we do actually confirm a breakout back above that level, then that will actually activate this pattern and activate the bullish price target, which in that case, if you're measuring out the price target this way, that sets up a technical price target at approximately 2.1k, which is also right where the top of the wedge is sitting at, which is also the secondary way of measuring the price target for a falling wedge pattern. Once again, at around 2.1k approximately. And if you're measuring out that move from the point of the breakout to that price target, that's more than a 23% move to the upside in the price of ETH. But once again, it is important to understand that this technical price target to the upside and this pattern only come into play. They only activate if we first confirm a breakout above this resistance, which obviously as of right now has not yet happened. And statistically speaking, a falling wedge pattern breaks out to the upside roughly 2/3 of the time and breaks to the downside roughly 1/3 of the time. And so statistically speaking, it is more likely than not to break out to the upside, but of course it is still possible. It's just less likely, but it is still possible. It can break to the downside. And so this is why we need to ideally wait for confirmation, wait for a confirmed breakout above resistance in order to start flipping more bullish again in regards to this pattern. And if you're taking a look at the daily ETH to US dollar chart, obviously not much has changed over the last one day on this chart. We still have this area of resistance in the price. And as for the daily Ethereum price oscillators, right now the MACD is still showing very low momentum, like I said in my last video. And as for the daily Ethereum RSI, technically speaking, this bullish divergence is still currently active because we have not yet seen a breakdown in the RSI or the price below these previous lows. But obviously, as of right now, the price and the RSI are moving closer towards that potentially happening. It's just, it hasn't happened right now. But if it does end up happening, basically, if we see a confirmed break to the downside in the price below these previous lows, then it's possible we could just reconfirm a new bullish divergence if the RSI is still sitting in higher lows. But at least for now, while this bullish divergence is technically still active, once again, this means we're due to see either choppy sideways price action on the daily time frame, which is currently playing out over the last few days since the bullish divergence, or if not choppy sideways price action, then potentially a bit more of a bullish relief as the two most common outcomes from a bullish divergence. And as for significant support here on the daily time frame, we still have this area of support in between around 1510 to 1540 based on this 50% retracement level and also these previous lows. But if we end up seeing a confirmed break with daily candle closes back below around 1.5k give or take, then in that case the next significant area of support on the daily time frame is this golden pocket sitting in between around 1360 to 1.4k. And as for short-term support and resistance, looking at the 6-hour time frame, we still have this short-term support based on these previous lows, once again closer towards around 1520 to 1530 give or take. And as for short-term resistance, we could now find some short-term resistance at around 1570, but if we see a breakout back above that level, then we have some more important short-term resistance at around 1605, around 1630, and this golden pocket area of resistance sitting in between around 1660 to 1670. But once again, as I mentioned earlier on the daily time frame in the daily Ethereum MACD, and as I also mentioned in my last video, the price of ETH right now is lacking momentum, which is why we're seeing a lot of choppy sideways price action, at least in the short term, also as a result of that bullish divergence. But believe it or not, you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action just like this. And if you want to know how to do that, then check out the video in the bottom left of your screen right now, because that video right there shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action, and the video in the top left shows you how you can easily profit from bullish or bearish price action using AI. But anyway, that's everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.